Hi, welcome to the Real Code Show. In this video, we're going to be talking about cache. So, firstly, cache is a system that optimizes our app performance by saving data into a memory that whenever an API or a backend service is on runtime, it saves data, so it ensures that we don't request anytime we need some data, repetitive data, by the way. And so the backend service requests it to the cache. So my app service will be requesting the data, repetitive data, to the cache and not directly to the database every time a repetitive data is being requested. So for example, imagine that you are building a REST API and so you request some data that is being repetitive and you overflood all the database by a lot of requests that is mandatory requesting the same data again. So, cache in this case is a place where you are able to save your data whenever your application is on runtime. And given that your app service will be on runtime every time, so your users might be able to consult to your API, that is understood that you are able to provide always cache system. And so cache system will be the negotiator or an intermediary part between your app service and the database. So you will not mandatorily be needing to be requesting and overflowing with a lot of requests to your database every time a user is trying to make the same request, but your app will be requesting that request to the cache system that you have implemented. And that is the magic between an intermediary, like it's with cache. And so in this video, with this introduction, I want you to make sure that you have understood this concept. And if you have already knew it, congratulations for you. But if you don't, so in a few words, this is all about cache, and you will be seeing exemplified with code in this video. So before passing to the code section, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel and make sure you have hit that subscribe button down below so I make sure that this content is of your liking. And also, if this video is of your liking, don't hesitate to gift me a thumbs up for this video. Without any further ado, let's get started with the coding section. So now what you can see here is my application that I have built for this video, and you can see that it's a normal REST API built in Spring Boot. So first I want to expose to you my project structure that I have. I have the controller, the models, repositories, and the service. Each one of the packages are just containing one class. So the main code here to implement the cache system is going to be residing in the product service. Now, why in the service layer is going to be residing all of the cache? So this is all done and due to the fact that the business logic resides here, and we are not able to implement this same logic into the controller layer because the control layer is for dispatching HTTP requests and to serve the content that user requests. So the only place that we are able to implement this all the whole logic is in the service layer. Now, I want to explain you that in the controllers layer, I just have the typical code that you can see here, just dispatching all the requests. If you consult to this path, it'll consult this method, and then it will serve you um, all the content that comes from the layer service. And you can see here that if I go to this method by entering by the control command plus the click, here redirects me here, and then by this method I console here define all that comes this method from the repository layer. So this is not all just content from another world, but the main thing here is that when my controller redirects to my service layer and uh, gets this content that returns this method from the service layer, is returning a whole list of products entity. And this is typical, right? You have seen this type of methods before, but the new here is this annotations. And you can guess or figure out what these annotations is going to, right? So these annotations are mainly to implement the cache system. So to explain you, in order to explain you orderly this whole cache system, I want you to get understood first the first step to make before configuring this whole stuff of caching. So the first thing you are going to do is when you are building an API with Spring Boot, the first thing you got to do is to annotate the entry point of the app with the annotation of enable caching. By doing this, you are setting a proxy where you are telling to the Spring Boot that your app will contain a cache system integrated within your service layer, and that you allow to Spring framework to get all and interpret all of the annotations that you are going to be using to implement the cache system in the service layer. And so this is the first step. Now that you have done this first step, you are able to implement all of these annotations. So let me explain you uh, one by one what is this redirected to and how is that function. So when you save a product here, because my app is about products and all of the stuff here around just the one table in my database, and there's no more. So you can see here that when I save a product, I pass the entity that I have here just to populate all of this to pass as a parameter to the save method. But you can see here that it returns a products entity as a returning result from the method, right? And the magic here is that whenever my method returns a product entity, then the cache will catch it. And does how will it be catching that result that this method will be returning? So with this cache evict, whenever a product entity is modified and so the cache is viewed as altered, then the cache will be updated. So here, by modifying the record in the database, the cache will make sure if that new record is into the cache, and if not, then the cache will update its records, and also it'll be requesting to the database and then will be storing into the cache. But uh, listen to this. This will be occurring whenever a new record is into the database, because in the cache there will be a whole list of products stored already. But whenever you add a new product, then the cache will evaluate all of these uh, records that it has at that time and evaluate if this has left another product that you have just saved into the database. So if not, then it will be passing the request that you are doing, and if not, if it's not into the cache, then it will be requesting to the database, and then it will be saving into the cache here. So that is what that's why cache evict here annotation is on at the top of this method. And then by doing the annotation cacheable here and just saying value here, all products, take a look here that all products is the name that in the cache will be placed, because we can have many places as we want to be placed into the cache um, storing. But in this case, I am only dealing with all products here. You can see here that there's another place that I have created that is named products. But this products is just mainly when you want to get the product by its ID. And so it's just to a single representation objective. In this case, it's not storing a whole list, but a single product entity. But take a look here. When we use cacheable, we are passing just one parameter that is a value. So cacheable, we are going to be using it when we are getting items or records from the database. So cache will be getting all of that returnings and will take it to store it in that memory. For example, when we want to return all of the products in a form of a list of products entity, then at the time that we return, cacheable will take that result that returns this method and will be storing it into the all products place. So that's all for cacheable. Get understood that cacheable, we are going to be using it whenever we want to catch or get the results that comes from the database. Now, passing to these composed annotations here. What we have here is when we want to delete a product by its ID, we want to pass the ID and we are going to be calling the delete method that we have in the repository. So when we want to delete a record from the database, we simultaneously want that the cache items that we have into the cache system to be updated, right? Because when we want to update a record into the database, so the database will have a different values rather than all the values that are into the cache, right? So they both have to be the same. So for this situation, we have to update as well our cache system. So for the cache updation here, when we want to delete a product, we are telling here that we want to, for the caching system, to evict here. And what we are going to be evicting, the place of products, whenever we pass an ID here, because this ID is the same that we are passing here as a parameter. So Spring Framework will be taking this parameter and is going to be passing here to identify what product is is going to be updated into the product's place here. But we are not dealing directly with this place. We're going to be dealing directly with this place that is named all products. So take a look that these both are different places into the same cache, but we are dealing directly with all products. And what we are going to be saying here, we're going to be saying that whenever we want to delete a product and passing by its ID, we're going to be evicting or updating all the products with all the entries equal to true. This means here that whenever we want to delete a product, we're going to be updating all of the records that we have into this all products place. And we're going to be affecting all the entries that it has. So imagine the example that we want to eliminate a record of a product from the database and proposing the same situation that I have just told you here, that it's not the same to update a new record into the database, but it's going to be different into the cache, so it doesn't make sense. And for that reason, you have to update all of the entries, right, for to be the same both the database and your cache system. And by here, you are telling Spring Framework to do all the whole updation. And here you can see that I am able to do a cacheable here again. So remember, we are going to be using cacheable whenever we want to retrieve a product or a record from the database. In this case, we're going to be caching and saving the product that we are going to be getting from the database into the product's place. And we're going to be identifying that record with the ID key. And also, as finally, when we want to update a product and we change the values that are into the database, so again, this situation comes in. Whenever you update a record that is already in existence into the database, you want that in your cache is reflected that same change that you have made into the database. So how do you do that? By updating again your whole cache system. And you are not explicitly updating your whole cache system, but rather this specific place that it's named all products. So I want you to make this differentiation first, because in the cache system we are able to create as many places as we want to store our data. As you can see here that whenever I update a record into the database, that same action will be reflected into an updation of the whole list of products that I had already into my cache system. So let me exemplify you what I do have from an HTTP client like it's with Postman. Here you can see that I am going to be consulting this path that I am referring specifically to my path here from the controller. You can see here that it's a slash get all. So it's the same that I am going to consult here. You can see that I can hit again ascend, and this whole returnings is going to be again now from cache. And you can see here in the logs, you can see here because when I first retrieve the data that is you can see here reflected from the hibernate query here, it has done a select here and selected the ID, the description, the name, the price from the product table. But now that I am requesting again, it should be displayed again that same query. But in contrast, that would be happening if my cache system wouldn't be working. So that's the exemplifying that my cache system is not now working, because every time I hit the send button, mandatory it has to be showing the query generated by Hibernate the same times that I have hit the send button from the Postman client, reflected into the console log of IntelliJ IDEA, showing this query from Hibernate. So if Hibernate shows only one query here, it means that all of the rest of the requests that I am doing here, as many times as I want, is going to be retrieved by the cache and not to be consulted directly to the database. So this is a whole optimization up performance. And you can see here that this is not distinguishable from a lower perspective, but this is very noticeable if we escalate, let's say, this app to millions of users, because all of the requests are going to be directed to the cache and not directly to the database, all the requests. And you can see that these are repetitive requests. So cache is taking the response to catch all my requests and retrieve my desired data to my client here. So I want to simplify you as well other options that I have here, because let's see that we want to eliminate, for example, this third item that is identified with the 3 number on its ID. So let's say I want to delete this product by putting here, passing the parameter of 3 in the delete path, and you are going to be seeing that the product is going to be deleted successfully. So what has happened here? So this is the same thing that I have just told you, because when I hit and consulted this delete path, it automatically here called the delete product by ID that I have on my service layer, and it normally deleted the record, right? But with that action, it changed a new action into the cache system. And so it evicted all the whole values and the whole list that I have already stored into the cache system. You can see that the third item has gone. So the deletion product is working here. And let's see that if we want, for example, to update, so the same logic is going to be happening here. There's no other logic here rather than the deletion. The deletion and updating of products are sharing the same logic. Let's say that I am not going to put computer. Let's say if we want to put laptop here, I'm going to update again. You can see here, this is another Hibernate query generator. And I'm going to be consulting again to get all the products from the database because it is going to be refreshed and evicted from the cache. So it is going to be requesting to the database directly because all of the cache system has been seen evicted, changed by the action of the of updation of the record that has been updated from the database. In order to them to be both equally and not to be one different to another, right? So it doesn't make sense from both of them to be different to the other. It has to be the same. The same values has to contain both parts. I hope you liked it and I hope you have understood what cache is. So, see you in the next time. Bye.